I'm Tommy Stimson.
This is Brian Bell from Weezer and The Relationship.
This is Gwar.
We're Muncie Gals.
This is Cindy Wilson.
This is Tony.
And this is Miles.
From Fastball.
We're the Regrets. And you're listening to Cigar City Radio.
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 Cigar City Radio is sponsored by No Clubs and StateMedia.com. Find out about upcoming concerts in Tampa Bay by visiting StateMedia.com and tagging No Clubs on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. Use the hashtag #WeAreConcerts.
No Clubs has a ton of kick-ass shows coming at you to close out the summer and going into the fall. Just a few here. Friday, August 10th, American Football at the Orpheum. Tuesday, August 14th, The Sword at the Orpheum. Thursday, September 27th, is Colony House and Tall Heights, also at the Orpheum. And that same night, two-show night, so at the Orpheum you got Colony House, and then also Thursday, September 27th at the Ritz, Matt Kearney's here on his Crazy Talk tour. A couple nights later, Saturday, September 29th, Skizzy Mars is coming to the Orpheum. Wednesday, October 3rd, Trivium is coming to the Ritz. That'll be a kick-ass metal show. Wednesday, October 10th, Milky Chance is coming to the Ritz. And a show I'm personally very excited for. Wednesday, November 21st, VNV Nation is coming to Janice Live, a band I haven't seen in years. And the last time I saw them was also at Janice Live, so that'll be really cool. Tampa's going to get turnt Friday, November 30th with Little Xan at the Ritz Ybor. So get your tickets for all those shows and more at statemedia.com. Welcome to a double-stuffed, hour-long episode 79 of Cigar City Radio. I'm your host, Randy Ojeda, and making the magic happen, a man who loves a good double stuffing, Mr. Jason Solanas.
So what makes this double stuff?
It's an hour long. It's a whole big thing. We talked and talked and talked and talked. Who are you to question double stuffing, Jason?
I never question double stuffing.
That's what I
like
thought.
my turkey double stuffed. I like my body double stuffed. And I like my doubles double stuffed.
And your Oreos.
No, I don't. I actually like my Oreos single stuffed.
Get the out of here.
You and your double stuffed Oreos.
Oh, my God. Our guest on this episode is probably somebody you haven't heard before, but somebody that I'm very proud to know. Our guest on this episode is Adam Shoemaker, who is somebody that I met about a decade ago. At the time, he was recording a record with George Harris at Panda Productions, is what the studio was called then. And for various reasons that Adam will explain in the podcast, the record never got released. However, next week, August the 6th, Monday, August the 6th, the record will finally be released through our label services. And Adam is throwing a big listening party at Coconuts Comedy Club on St. Pete Beach. There's going to be a live performance with Adam on guitar and vocals, George Harris on lead guitar, Kirk Adams on bass, and Ted Uruso on drums. They're going to play a couple songs from the record and a couple new songs that Adam's writing for the next record that he's putting out. So once you listen to this episode, you'll understand how amazing it is to even say that Adam is having a next record released. And we're so excited that we could be a part of releasing this one and that Adam could come on the podcast and share his story so candidly. He's such a great person, and I'm glad to have had the chance to sit down with him for an hour and chat. You know, it felt like no time had passed. He's a cool dude. So shout out to Adam for doing this one with us, and shout out to George Harris for barging in and interrupting everything and forcing himself on the podcast. If you like this episode, check out Adam's record, which comes out Monday, August 6th. It's just called Adam Shoemaker. Should be easy to find. Just search Adam Shoemaker. It'll be on all of the digital platforms. After a decade of being on the shelf, you can listen to it. We also play a little bit from his record at the very end of the podcast, the track You Let Me Down. So stay tuned to the end for that one. Also, if you were wondering what that kick-ass New Orleans song was to lead in our episode, that was New Orleans by Soupbone, which is another record that we released through our label services. So check that out and more. Here it is, episode 79. Sort of met Noel Gallagher.
Really?
Yeah.
No way.
Well, this was when I worked at Disney for a little while.
Uh-huh.
I worked at the Haunted Mansion, right? And I'm sitting there, I'm outside the attraction or whatever, helping people, and then from afar, I see what to me is clearly Noel Gallagher, and I even turned to a random person next to me, and I was like, "Is that Noel Gallagher?" And they're like, "Who's Noel Gallagher?" I don't know, whatever. But then as he started walking up, I was like, "Oh no, this is." Very clearly, this is Noel Gallagher for sure. And he was with his family, like his wife and his kids and grandparents. Liam wasn't there, but, the rest of the family looked like it was there. And they came walking up, and when you're a celebrity at Disney, they bring you in through the back, so you go in through the exit and you ride the ride that way so you don't, cause a disturbance or whatever. So they're going to bring him through the back, and I just sprinted back there, and I went up to the girl that was working the station there at the exit. I was like, "Yo, we're switching spots right now because I'm getting Noel Gallagher onto this ride." And I was like, "Noel Gallagher's coming up right now. I gotta get him on the ride." So he came up, and I remember it was funny because his kid said something like, "Oh, I want to get some fucking shit to eat," or something like that. And his wife's smacked the kid on the back of the head, and said, "I told you not to fucking cuss while we're here." I was like, that's great. But they loaded him and his family on the ride, and I was like, that was the closest I'll ever get to Noel Gallagher. Oh yeah, you can touch me.
Okay.
Yeah. No, yeah, I met.
That's amazing.
That was amazing. Well, what sucks though is a couple months later I was working there, and I went to the Mouseketeria for my break, and I come back and somebody tells me, "Oh, you know who you just missed? Paul McCartney."
What?
Yes,
dude.
Yeah, he came he had a show that night in Tampa, I think, and he went to Disney and then did Haunted Mansion, It's a Small World, Pirates of the Caribbean, and then peaced out.
Oh, dude, that's fucked up, man.
Yeah, I know. But anyways,
that's amazing, man.
Enough about random Disney celebrity sightings, because that's something I can talk about all day.
Nice.
But yeah, so it is a beautiful Monday night in Largo, Florida right now. We're in Largo, of all places, at the Creative World Recording Studio, owned by world famous producer, engineer, songwriter, guitar player George Harris.
George fucking Harris.
Yeah, not George Harris' son.
Yeah.
Let's be clear. George Harris, a man who doesn't remember the year 1992. And but right now we're sitting with somebody that I met a long time ago through George Harris, Mr. Adam Shoemaker. So,
thank you for having me.
No, first off, thank you for being here, and thank you for still being here. It's good that you're here,
Yes.
for a lot of reasons that we can get into if you want.
Sure.
It's up to you.
Absolutely.
But first, let's go back to the beginning. So I want to know a little bit about the history of Adam Shoemaker.
Okay.
Because you've lived some lives, my friend. At least one. You're
Yeah.
At least one that you're living now.
Yeah, I've had an interesting life. I've been very lucky.
Yeah.
Well, maybe kind of unlucky in some ways, but I'd say in the grand scheme of things, it's all, happens as it is supposed to happen, or
Yeah.
it is, and So,
Were you always from this area?
yes, I was born in St. Pete, raised in Treasure Island. Actually, half raised, half here, and half up in Neptune Beach in Jacksonville.
Okay.
So I kind of tell people I have two hometowns,
Jacksonville and
St. Pete area.
Yeah.
So, go back and forth. I kind of live more in Jacksonville now at the moment, but so back and forth.
And what was growing up like? Because I know you were just telling us about your dad was like on tour with a band in the UK and all this stuff. So like, what was the life like?
Well, that was all the touring stuff was pre-Adam. I should say,
okay.
before I was born. But by the time I was born, my dad was on the management side of bands.
Mm-hmm.
But shortly after I was born, he got into the comedy business just by in a mistake. Actually, he was a lawyer and got his law degree at Stetson. Passed the bar first try. And was going to be all doing the law and stuff. And he quit to manage his friend's band. And then after that, he quit.
A man after my own heart.
Yeah, right. And then he was practicing law, managing my friend's band, and a comedian called him. This was in the early 80s, and said, "Hey, man, I've been booking this comedy club in Tierra Verde, and I just lost our room. Can you help me out? I know you're good at booking bands. Do you think you can maybe book comedy?" And so my dad said, "No, I've never booked it before, but I'll give it a try." And so he found a room somewhere over in Clearwater, this old Mexican restaurant that had a banquet room, and put on a comedy show for his friend, and it went so well that it ended up morphing into Coconuts, and he's been doing that ever since.
Wow.
And it's just kind of happened.
So he just fell into comedy.
Just fell into it, and it's on St. Pete Beach now. It's been there since 1986. It's the longest continuously running comedy club in Florida. And, it's still there. And I got to grow up around lots of creative people.
Yeah, like
musicians and comedians.
Right, that's awesome. Who were some of the comedians that were going through there?
Was it a couple people? Jim Brewer.
Yeah,
got his start at the comedy club. My dad used to pay him $25 a night to MC in 1986.
Oh, you should hold him to that now.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
And John Stewart played one of the clubs early on.
Right on.
And I used to have clubs. This is back in the late 80s when comedy was really happening, stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
And at that time, my dad had about 25 comedy clubs from Florida all the way up the eastern seaboard.
And he was booking all these?
Yep.
Man, your dad's a badass.
Yeah, man. And then, it's been pretty cool, man. Had a lot of good times, a lot of fun comedians. My favorite comedian of all time is Mitch Hedberg.
Yeah, I was going to ask you because you actually got me into Mitch Hedberg.
I did?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
like 10. So we met, background for
About
the podcast listeners.
We met about 2010.
Yeah, so around there.
11 maybe.
Yeah, maybe even
Recruited.
earlier than that,
Okay.
I think, actually. But we were recording a record with George at Panda, and you were also recording a record and also kind of hanging out there, and we're going to get to that record soon. And that's where we met. I remember I think we initially bonded over like Mitch Hedberg. Like I had seen some of his comedy, but I wasn't like really into him yet. And then you told me some Mitch stories, I guess, because you got to actually meet him and
to hang out with him a couple times. He played at my dad's club on St. Pete Beach around 1999 and 2000. He played there about a handful of times.
Yeah.
And that was right kind of when he was just blowing up. And he was kind of like a bit above my dad's pay grade, but he didn't care. He just liked to come down there and hang out for a week on the beach. It was kind of like a paid vacation for him.
Yeah.
Like I remember he did his stand-up special on Comedy Central in January of 2000, and in September of 2000 he still came and played my dad's little 150-seat club.
Wow. I bet that sold out.
Oh, it sold out. It was amazing. And that was actually the last time I saw him. That's when I hung out with him. At the time, my band, The Dogs, that I play guitar in, we'd just done a record over in Italy.
Mm-hmm.
And we just gotten it mastered, and I had the CD in my car, and that was one of the last times I hung out with Mitch. Me, him, and his girlfriend, or another comedian were hanging out in my car, and I was playing him my record. It was kind of more of like a hard rock metal record, and I just remember I was in the front seat, Mitch was in the back, and he was like swaying back and forth, and he had his sunglasses on and the smile on his face. And after the couple songs of the record, I stopped. I was like, "What do you think, man?" And he's like, "Man, this is really good music for older people." That was awesome.
That's such an amazing. Like, what does that even mean? Like,
I know.
Like,
And the great thing was he was such a nice guy, and he was exactly like he is on stage, off stage, like the
Really?
same, talk the same, you know.
Yeah, that's
Same
that
guy.
cadence. And
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
He was really cool, man. He invited me actually up to his room after done hanging out. He's like, man, we got a bunch of, we're going to go up and drop some acid, man, and do some other stuff. And I was like, at the time, I was just kind of high school. I was like, no, I'm good, thanks. I'm going to go home. And now I look back on it, I'm like, God.
Oh man, yeah.
What
You could have had that would have been the story.
Yeah, I
Dropping
know, right?
acid with Mitch Hedberg. Like, damn. But yeah, he lived a pretty fast life from what
Yeah,
people
man.
said.
That's my dad hung out with him a bit more than I did. He actually first met him in 1998. Mitch came and played my dad's comedy club in the Cayman Islands.
Mhm.
When he had one down there. That was the summer of 1998. And my dad went down there, spent a week hanging out with Mitch there. And about midway through the week, they were doing a show at the club. It was near the end of the show. It was sold out. And my dad was standing by the front door, and this little blonde English dude and his wife came walking up and said, hey, the show's still going? My dad's like, yeah, it's almost over. But if you want, there's a seat at the bar. You can guys just come in for free and hang out. And so the show gets over, and Mitch comes up to my dad, and he goes, you know who that guy is, Bob? My dad's like, no. He goes, that's Martin Gore. My dad's like, who? He's like, Martin Gore from Depeche Mode,
Right on.
And so for the rest of the week that my dad and Mitch were in the Cayman Islands, they hung out with Martin Gore at the little comedy condo where my dad was staying with Mitch. And about in November of that year, Depeche Mode came and played at the Ice Palace, and Martin called up. I remember I just got home from high school that day, and the phone rang at the office at my dad's house, and it was Martin Gore. He's like, hey, Bob, you guys still want to come see us at the Ice Palace? So he hooked us up with backstage and all that stuff just because of Mitch,
Wow.
meeting him at the...
Who would have thought the connection between Mitch Hedberg and Depeche Mode?
I know,
of
right?
all things. Like, that's incredible. That's super cool. So then, and obviously, the comedy is one thing, but you're also, lived in a musical family too.
Mhm.
So when did you start playing music?
Probably about when I was about 4 years old, I started on drums first. That was my main thing. Started on pots and pans in the kitchen,
That's
like
how
a
most
lot of
drummers
people
start.
do.
Yeah.
And pretty much, man, when I was about 4 years old, my first favorite band was The Firm. Jimmy Page's first
Yeah,
band after
yeah,
Zeppelin
yeah.
with Paul Rogers. And I used to watch their videos on MTV, and they had a video for the song Radioactive, and their drummer, Chris Slade, who later played in AC/DC for a while, he was like my hero. When I was a kid, I just wanted to be like him, so started playing drums and just would be put on like concerts by myself for nobody in the den of my dad's house. I had my little play school drum set. I had a play school guitar, plastic guitar, and just put on concerts for nobody, make up tickets and all that kind of stuff. And basically it'd be me miming along to music videos of The Firm that I'd recorded on MTV, and I just play those and pretend like I was in the band.
Yeah.
And my mom actually, at some point, it told me around that time, Jimmy Page was in another band before The Firm. I'm like, oh, really?
Really?
Yeah. And she put on her copy of Led Zeppelin 2, and then I was like, okay, holy shit, what's this? This is awesome.
That you got to be the only person in the world that got into The Firm before Led
know,
Zeppelin. Like, what is that?
Yeah. Yeah,
Like,
man.
That's crazy.
It was The Firm and then Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. That was like every time I'd go to Jacksonville, like I said, I spent half my time in Jacksonville, my grandma's house up there, Granny, call her, and driving up there, we'd always listen to Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. That's like some of my earliest music memories are The Firm on MTV, and then being in the car, hearing all the old early Heartbreaker stuff. So
That's really cool.
that
And-
kind of got me like started on it. And then for a while, when I was about 5 to about 11 years old, all I wanted to do, I got really into movies. I wanted to be a director, screenwriter. I made a bunch of home movies, like horror films and stuff like that. And then via horror films, got into serial killers when I was about 11.
Of course. Like any
You know?
good old
Yeah,
11-year-old
right?
boy, get into serial
For some
killers.
reason, I was obsessed with Charles Manson and the whole Manson family story. And I got the Helter Skelter book and read that over and over again when I was 11. And my mom, again, stepped in and said, I have the album that song's from. I'm like, oh, okay. And she played me the White Album. And then it was all over. And it's been music ever since.
Yeah, that'll do it.
That was it. It was like the White Album's still my favorite album of all time by anybody.
So it was really your mom that made this happen.
Pretty much.
She encouraged
She
you
kind
to
of like pointed me in the little,
like
there's
hey,
a little something else here.
right. There's something else besides The Firm.
Yeah.
That's really awesome. And so when did you start actually like playing in bands and making music happen?
First band I was in was a cover band. I was this is May of 1995, my 8th grade year in middle school, and we put together a little band for the talent show. I was still just playing drums at this point.
This is giving me goosebumps because that's literally how my first band started.
Nice.
Like, no joke, for 8th grade talent show.
Nice.
That's hilarious. So so continue.
Yeah.
So you played drums. What did you play at the talent show?
We did 3 songs. It was me, a guitar player, and a keyboard player. Actually, the guitar player was my friend Nate Najar.
Yeah.
And he was a guitar player, and another buddy of mine, Dave, played keyboards. I was drums, and we did Purple Haze, Knocked on Heaven's Door, and Satisfaction.
That's badass, man. For 8th graders, like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's so weird. It's like the replacement song talent show. Like, I guess that's how everybody started, was like doing a talent show.
And I think I picked like Purple Haze and Satisfaction. I insisted on because that was like it was summer '95, and I just a year before I just gotten into Jimi Hendrix, especially the first 2 Experience records.
Yeah.
And the Who. Like Keith Moon at that time was my idol. I had like a little double drum set and everything, and I thought I was Keith Moon for a couple of years and all that kind of good fun stuff.
Yeah. What was the original band called, that talent show band? Did you have a name?
Yes, it did. It was called Disraeli Gears, named after the Cream record.
Yeah. All right.
It's funny hearing that on the school intercom. We played 2 gigs, the talent show and then the end of the 8th grade year school dance, and it was funny hearing the principal on there. And the name of the band playing at the dance will be Disraeli Gears.
That's great that they let you play the dance, though.
Yeah.
I mean, that's awesome.
But all most of the kids, like 8th graders and all the 7th graders, 6th graders, like, what's Disraeli Gears?
No, they probably didn't know. Yeah, they probably didn't. But I mean,
Yeah.
you were ahead of your time, man.
Yeah.
Later, those kids got to college and like started smoking weed, and then we're like, oh,
Yeah, right.
now I see what this kid was talking about with Purple Haze. Like, I get it now. I get the Jimi Hendrix thing or whatever. That's. Yeah, I felt the same way. Or when I started our band, or I guess I didn't start. When we did our talent show band in 8th grade, it was called Car Full of Midgets.
Nice.
Which, that name would not fly
Nice.
today. I don't think. I don't think it's PC enough
Yeah.
for this day and age. So we would have been Car Full of Little People, I guess. Or
Yeah.
I should probably edit that out, Jason. Edit that out.
Bloopers.
I don't
Yeah.
want to anger the little community.
This be the B sides of the podcast.
Yeah.
I'll just bleep out midgets every time you say it.
Yeah. Okay, so the band was called Car Full of and we did one song at the talent show, and it was AC/DC's Back in Black.
Nice.
Yeah, and I did the whole thing, and like
Nice.
really didn't know how to do it, and like
Wow.
fucked up my throat trying to
Dude, word?
hit those notes,
That's awesome.
But I guess we did it, and then from there, like as we got a little bit older, we kept playing more and more shows and playing covers, and then started writing original music. But like once we started writing original music, I guess we were less cute, than we were, because at the time we were like, oh, our parents would like bring their friends out, and they'd be like, oh yeah,
Same with me.
look, like our kids are playing, Van Halen songs and stuff like that. And then we started writing these nasty punk songs, and that it was a lot less cute,
That was like the same. I did the same thing after my talent show band. We only lasted those couple of gigs, and then my senior year in high school, I got another band together. I played drums with. We had a guitar player, same keyboard player from the talent show band, and a bass player this time. We're called Fate and Fury.
All right.
Very awesome. And we played pretty much all covers, but we did more like like the Who and pretty much a lot of classic rock stuff.
Yeah.
And so it was the same thing. We play on off nights on Monday nights at my dad's comedy club on the beach because they didn't do shows Monday nights. So we play like probably once every 2 months. And same thing. We get a huge crowd, but it was all like 70% our parents' friends.
Yeah.
Bring their friends like, oh, you got to see our kids. It's so cute. They're playing like our music.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
that kind of
Exactly.
stuff.
Yeah. That's cool though, and that should be like, it's cool that can be like a musical history now. Like it's, with now that we're generations from like the creation of rock, you know, like that's a lot of people's stepping stones, and as it should be.
I know. Yeah, me
you
too,
should,
man.
you should get into the Who and the Stones and stuff before you get into like, Radiohead or something.
No, I agree.
Like you should follow that progression and see how rock kind of evolved. But
That's just like how I started early, man, pretty much from my parents' vinyl collection.
Yeah.
Like I said, from my mom turning me on to stuff here and there,
yeah,
at least pointing me in that direction, of checking stuff out. I think The Who was the first band I found on my own through my
Yeah.
parents' favorite collection. They had their album Happy Jack. It was a U.S. version of one of the English one was called A Quick One, and Happy Jack was the the U.S. version. They kind of used to change the track list a little bit.
Yeah.
And I remember just seeing the cover of that, and I was like, man, who the hell is this? And I put it on, and the second song was Boris the Spider, and I'd never heard anything like that in my life. I was like, man, this is awesome.
Yeah.
So,
That'll do it.
yeah, man. And I remember one time, actually, in a band, Fate and Fury, having settled all the parents liked the songs we played. They're like, oh, these are our songs, except for one song. We were all about 13, 14 years old, and our keyboard player had us learn Feel Like Making Love by Bad Company.
Okay.
And I didn't think about it at the time because I was just thought it was a cool song to play on drums.
Yeah.
Like, ta-da, bonk, you know. And their parents, after we played it the first time, I think the keyboard player's parents and the guitar player's parents were like, I don't think you guys should. We don't know if we want you to be playing that song.
I mean, you could be playing worse songs.
I know.
I guess.
I
You
know.
know, but yeah, that's interesting.
And then after that, man, it was pretty much drums for a while, and then took an AC/DC. It was 1996. It was January of '96. AC/DC was coming to play at the Trop. I still call it the Thunderdome.
Yeah.
And a buddy of mine talked me into going, and I kind of like, I knew like Highway to Hell and maybe Back in Black, and that was about it. But to get prepped for the show, I went to Specs. The old store used to be open on 66th Street, and got a video there. It's called Live at Donington, 1991. And I put on that video, and it just, from the first song, it just changed. It was like, like a light bulb went off. It was like, moment.
Yeah.
And from then on, I wanted to be Malcolm Young. I was like, dude, that's my hero, the rhythm guitar guy in the back by the drums. Like, and that made me want to like not stop playing drums, but that made me want to learn how to play guitar. And that, coupled with the fact that the other guys in my band I wanted to start doing originals, and they weren't really into it.
Yeah.
And so, coupled with that fact, and then seeing Malcolm Young play guitar, I'm like, I want to teach myself how to play guitar, and that's what kind of got me into being a songwriter, just from doing that,
Wow. And so, at what point did you meet George Harris?
Let's see. I met George in about 1998. He was, it was my senior year in high school. He was mixing the CD of my uncle-in-law's band, Ambush, their old reggae band. My uncle-in-law was the drummer.
Oh, shout out to your uncle.
And so I met him through my uncle-in-law Bob, and it was very cool. Married to my aunt, my mom's sister.
Right on.
And so I met him through my uncle-in-law. It was cool.
So George Harris just walked in here. I guess he's going to put on the headphones. Our crappy headphones, not your $170 headphones.
Good. That's right.
Does it sound good or does it...
I don't know how to get this distortion. Can I borrow this rig?
Thanks a lot, George. So we were just talking about how you met Adam Shoemaker.
Yeah. Well, I actually knew his Uncle Bob when I was 16.
Really?
I played.
Before I was alive. Yeah.
I played in a band with him
Yeah.
when I was a kid. Like, like a local original band that never did anything.
Yeah.
Just goof off kind of band. And then years later it became like, oh, this is Adam.
Yeah.
I was telling him it was from when you were mixing his band Ambush's CD in 1998.
That's right. Bob was in that. That's right.
1998 at Panda.
Ah, see? I don't remember these things.
Oh, yeah.
George, do you remember the 90s at all? I'm starting to worry about you.
We've already established that I don't remember anything. Oh my God, that's terrible. But yeah, that he was playing reggae, at the time, and met Adam and his dad, and all these people that I should have known because we all had a periphery of people that we all knew a bunch of people, the same people. It's just one of those things.
Yeah, that it was a matter of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I got to know George even better. Actually, it was in the following year, in 1999, he mixed a CD from a very good friend of mine's band from Italy, just outside of Florence. They were called Coda. A buddy of ours, Richard, has a studio over there, and they did a record and brought over all the ADATs at the time, I think.
ADATs, yeah.
I don't even know what an ADAT is.
It's like a VHS
it's a
tape.
VHS tape
Yeah.
that did 8 tracks of digital audio, okay? It was one of the first cheapo digital things. And as Americans do, it was not the best version, but it was the cheapest one, so it won out over the what was the other one called?
I can't remember.
There was a Tascam version of it that was on the smaller tape.
Okay. So
But
it's like
that
VHS
was
or
better.
Betamax.
It was on Beta, exactly.
Okay.
And that was better, but of course it didn't win because it was a few more dollars. But anyway, the VHS tapes, eight tracks per unit, and you could connect like tons of them. You have almost virtually unlimited tracks at the time.
Wow,
these
unlimited
ADAT
tracks.
machines. Just keep piling videotapes in there and recording on them. And of course, they were horrible, sounded terrible, had dropouts, but it was fun. Anyway, these guys from Italy came over, and we had an absolute blast. Like one guy spoke English.
Yeah. Then we had our engineer friend Alessandro. He spoke no
Yeah.
English, but we spoke no Italian, so we kind of like figured out like a.
Yeah, Sandro and I hung out for a week, just like making hand signs at each other and teaching each other how to cuss. And
Yeah. Oh yeah. That was the first thing, was how to cuss.
Brilliant, man.
Yeah.
So at what point did you start working with Adam, like on the songwriting and actual like music side? You know.
Well, his dad called me and asked if I'd be interested in cutting some of his songs, you know.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So he came in and we just started.
That was my first. I'll tell you exactly when that was. That was November 2005.
See,
How do you remember that?
see,
George doesn't remember all of the 90s. The
I
whole
don't re-
decade is gone.
Screw
But Adam
that.
knows.
I don't remember yesterday, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, that was my my first semester at Florida State actually, and I would drive down US 19. Like it was a 5-hour drive down there on the weekends
Mhm.
and do like Friday, Saturday at the studio, then drive back up and write papers and do all that kind of stuff during the week, and then drive back down the next weekend and back and forth.
And
For
is
a
this
while.
is this the music that became the album that you're about to release?
Yes, it is.
Yes, exactly.
Wow.
That long ago.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, we recorded like about probably, was it 19 songs? Yeah,
I don't. Well, like you're asking me, like
I
I
know.
would know.
got 10 on this one. About so 9
Yeah,
left over.
I
and
guess it's about that. 18 or 19.
Yep.
Somewhere in that neighborhood.
And George, like, what was it about Adam that you were like, all right, I'll work with this kid, you know? Because I know you.
Oh, it was pity, of course.
Well, yeah,
Just complete.
as it is with most of your endeavors.
Yeah, exactly. It's just oh, that's
Exactly.
sad. We should really do something. No,
I know.
no man. It was just respect, and he had good ideas. You know?
Yeah.
And he knows more about the music that I grew up listening to than I do.
Yeah.
He's a historian. He studied music, man. He knew his shit. He knew, you have to respect people like that, man. People that are that deep into it.
Yeah.
He knows who played what on what and why. And he knew that Malcolm Young was the reason AC/DC exists.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we were
man.
just talking about it.
I mean, what more do you need? You know?
I remember the first time you mixed the first time like you ever worked, you mixed the Dog CD that we did over in Italy.
Right.
Because
right.
my first band, kind of hard rock metal band, the Dogs, we went over to Italy for 2 weeks, and our friend Richard over there, he had a villa in Strada and Chianti, which is in the hills just outside of Florence.
That sounds amazing.
Oh,
It
it's
was.
beautiful.
Oh, dude, it was rad.
It's unbelievable.
We all went over there, stayed in the villa for 2 weeks, and they had a little kind of 2-story kind of shack out back, which was the studio. So we just get up in the morning, walk a little bit down the hill, and record. And then we brought our tapes back, and George mixed them. This is in the spring of 2000.
Wow.
And I remember, man, one of the first conversations I had with you when I walked in there, I was talking about guitar, and I was like, yeah, man, I play lead guitar, but I'm a rhythm guitar player, man. Malcolm Young's my hero. And you're like, dude, I'm so glad to hear you say that.
Yeah.
And never underestimate the rhythm guitarist,
Dude.
man.
Well, dude,
that's a key
It's the
ingredient.
groove guy, man. Malcolm was the riff meister, man. He made that band work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
A lot of people look at me like give me the RCA dog look. A lot of guitar players, and I ask, who's your favorite guitar player? I say Malcolm Young. Like, really?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
man.
years later, we drug him out to do a show with Brian Johnson.
Yeah,
where
yeah.
He was Malcolm.
Oh, yeah, you got to play the Malcolm part?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
He had my Gretsch Billy Bow and my Marshall,
Yeah.
and he was Malcolm, man. It was perfect.
That's
that was
awesome.
crazy, man.
Yeah, there's video. There's video. Of that
I've
on
seen
YouTube
I've
somewhere.
seen it on YouTube.
Video on
Yeah,
YouTube,
yeah.
man. I was in the back trying to be cool, and I just a couple times I going like, oh, this is awesome.
I mean, you're playing with Brian Johnson. Like,
Oh, dude. I mean, it's like I said, man, I've had such a cool, lucky life, man. So many cool experiences to get to actually be around people that are a genuine, importance to me. Musically, like playing with Brian Johnson was just amazing to get to do that. And I'll never forget that. It was just amazing. All because of George. He's the one who was like, hey, can you be Malcolm this week? I'm like,
Who else would I get?
Adam's the guy, right?
Yeah.
it was crazy, man.
And he already knew the parts better than we did. He knew the shit better than Brian did.
He was teaching Brian the songs.
Yeah, here's the arrangement, man. No, it doesn't go the bridge up.
Well, there was that one time we rehearsed in Panda a few days before the gig, and Brian was like, hey, "And you guys know Hell Ain't a Bad Place to Be?" And I was like, "I do." And I started playing the beginning. And for like about 30 seconds, everybody else jumped in right away because they're like the best musicians around here, those guys. But for about the first 20, 30 seconds, it was just me and Brian playing, the song Hell Ain't a Bad Place to Be. It's an old Bon Scott era AC/DC song. And I'll never forget that. That was awesome. That was even cooler than doing the actual gig, man.
Yeah, it was just rehearsing with Brian Johnson.
It was like a trip, man. He was like standing just to my left, and I'm like, I've been playing these Malcolm riffs since I was 15, and now the dude who actually sang on most of them is singing right next to me.
Yeah,
and he sounds just like that.
Yeah, no,
it's awesome.
That's crazy.
And he couldn't have been a nicer guy too.
That's what I've heard. You've told us that too, Jordan.
Yeah,
Brian Johnson.
Absolutely. I think the rehearsals were such a fun hang that it wasn't even.
It wasn't even work. It was
no, it's never work, for Christ's sake.
Oh yeah,
but he's such a fun hang, man. We just always have a blast when Brian's around.
That's really cool.
And he was really cool, man. I'm always like really insecure about stuff, man. And I was like, man, I hope Brian thought I was all right. After it was over, I'm like, oh man, because I was in my brain, I'm thinking, I probably could have played this better or that better or something. And a mutual friend of mine and George's sent me a private message the next day because she's good friends with Brian's wife, and I guess she stayed at their house in Sarasota after the show, and she sent me a message and he said, Adam, I just thought you'd like to know this, but we had a barbecue earlier today and Brian brought you up and he said, it was that kid. He's like, that kid was fucking great. I was like, holy shit.
That's the highest esteem that you can get. It's fucking great.
I was like, that made my life, man. I still like,
I think
awesome.
he even called him a fucking kunt at one point.
Yeah.
Which is about as good as it gets.
That's as good as it gets.
Fucking kunt.
That's as good as it gets.
Well, he kept calling me me son.
Well, that's what he does.
That's what he does,
yes.
Is that what he calls everybody?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean,
I'm his son.
Yeah.
We're all he can son all of us.
Yeah.
He's Brian Johnson. Yeah. He can do whatever he wants.
Yeah, but when you hear that's his phrase.
All right,
man.
Yeah. So you kept working on this album in pieces, right?
Bits and pieces.
It
took a couple years.
Yeah, because we were trying to do it on downtime.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep.
So,
I know how that is.
So we could afford to do it.
Yeah. We do a lot of records with you on downtime.
Oh yeah.
Imagine that.
Yeah. Well, I remember I went to school over in Europe for 6 months from the summer, fall 2007. I did 6 weeks in London, then had a month off, hung out with some friends in northern England, and last part of that month, some friends in southern Italy out in the sticks, just outside of Rome. And then I did 3.5 months in Florence, Italy, went to school there. And I remember we were about halfway through this record, and George would send me like the mixes in the mail. And that was the coolest thing, man, getting the mixes through the Italian mail.
Wait, like the actual mail?
It was mail.
Yeah.
Real mail.
Yeah, like you had to send a disc.
Yeah,
wow.
It was a disc, and it arrived at like the little, I can't remember the name of the place, but a post office in downtown Florence, and it was so cool to listen to it in our little apartment we had there right up the Arno in Florence, listening to all these, mixes coming from.
So did you actually have to write out something and send it back through the post, or
nope?
No,
everything
notes.
Was awesome.
Everything was perfect.
His dad came in and sat with me a few days. I'd be mixing, and his dad would come and sit, and Bob would come in and just hang, and that was a blast too.
And I remember I talked to you on the phone while you were mixing, and one of the songs before I started school in Florence, I was staying in with our friend Richard, who my previous band had done the record with in 2000. I was staying with him and his crazy friend in some little two-room shack next to a big mansion on top of some hill in this town called Trevignano, which is literally out in the sticks in Italy. It's like it's like that scene in The Godfather where he goes to get married in Sicily.
Yeah. And
it looked just like that, and that's where I was. There was like no cell phone, no nothing. I mean, it was like the 2 weeks I spent there out of my whole 6 months overseas. Those 2 weeks were like the truest, like, I'm not in America anymore. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. That's when you really felt far from home.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember, George, that's the first time you called me, because you called me on the little landline there, and I could, like, it would cut in and out. And it was when you were mixing one of the songs, and my dad was in the studio. And it was just so surreal, looking around and looking like where I was at.
Yeah.
Looking like I'm, little vineyard over here, a lake here, the woods there in Italy, and then talking to George on the phone back in Clearwater.
Yeah. And I'm sitting in a cave, not there.
Yeah.
Is the crux of the biscuit.
Right. That's one of those true, like, how did I get here kind of moments.
So I have
yeah.
Yeah.
You're number one. Okay.
Exactly.
So you worked on this record for a couple years, a few years, right? When did it when did it finally get complete? Like when were you?
Let's say probably about 2008, near the end of 2008.
Okay. And then what happened?
Well, it just kind of was hanging around for a while.
Yeah, you could say that.
Yeah.
Like 10 years.
Yeah, you could say that.
It would, well, I had a couple things that were supposed to happen with it. It just didn't pan out.
Yeah.
I was flown out to L.A. I got through a mutual friend of ours, Tom Gribben, we were talking about earlier. He hooked me up with the lawyer, this guy Brian Rohan. He's a old music attorney. He was like music attorney for Jimi Hendrix and Janis Joplin and Jefferson Airplane and a lot of like the San Francisco 60s bands and stuff.
Right
and
on.
he got a hold of my CD through a friend of Tom's, and there's a song on my CD called "You Let Me Down," and he was like convinced that was a hit song. I mean, this dude was like, that's a fucking hit song. You got
Yeah.
And he signed me for just a year kind of lawyer representation kind of contract thing, and he flew me out to L.A. in December 2010, and I met with some management guys out there who were interested in it, and they signed me for a year, and they shot me to like Interscope, I think was one of the main ones they signed me to, and I guess from what I heard, they liked it, but they just weren't signing.
Yeah,
people.
That's what they say. Yeah.
So that's pretty much.
Yeah. No, that's how it is. That's how it is. It's like
they're like, this is like really good, but we're just not signing just people that we don't,
Yeah, that don't already have a huge audience,
or that we're not already like already have like been molding for a while, or,
right?
That kind of stuff. So.
Well, labels don't develop artists anymore
exactly
like they used to,
yeah.
so they want somebody that's already packaged and ready and has the base and has their thing.
I was born like a couple decades too late.
Yeah.
I learned that because I was like thinking when I went out there, I'm like, cool, man, development. That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah.
But having said that, it was still cool to even get that far. I still think it's cool in hindsight. It was
absolutely.
Fun. And then, let's see, about April of 2012, the same lawyer, he flew me again out to San Francisco, and I did a solo acoustic 4-song video shoot at Bob Ware's studio. TRI
right
in San Rafael.
Yeah, that stuff is nice too.
Man. And
there's video and audio of that out there.
You have to have the password to watch it. It's on Vimeo. If you type my name on Vimeo, you can find it, but it's a private thing, and the password is TRI, the name of the studio. So it's not
too hard
to figure it out.
Those hackers out
there. Yeah, right.
Get to that video. Yeah.
But those turned out,
like anybody listening to this.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Those hackers.
Exactly. But
we have a big hacker audience. So,
awesome.
Yeah.
That's what I'm counting on, man.
Shout out to the hackers.
Yeah, man. But I did like a couple. There was a couple like almosts like that happened with that record, and then and then after that, I kind of just was like, well, kind of just not gave up on it, but just kind of I don't know what's gonna happen with it now, because that was what I was thinking in my brain was gonna happen, And then, here we are today.
And now it's finally getting ready to see the light of day.
Exactly.
Which is really cool.
Yeah, man. And very fitting with you guys, man, just because I just never forget hanging with you and talking.
Yeah.
Music nerding out.
Right, for sure. Yeah, so when we were cutting that record at Panda, I think we listed you on the record as you have a credit on the record.
But what was my credit that was funny?
I want to say Cabin
Boy. I think it was Cabin Boy.
Cabin Boy.
Yeah, Cabin Boy.
That was it. That was it.
Yeah. You have to have a Cabin Boy on the record.
Hell
so
yeah.
Without it just wouldn't be. It wouldn't be anything. But yeah, that's when we met and like really bonded over Oasis and our
all kinds of music,
particularly
too.
our mutual love of Britpop. I feel like was.
We even were cool too, because we connected on like not only Oasis, but we were talking about how we listened like all different kinds of music depending on what mood I'm in. Because we were talking about like Oasis, and then talked about Pantera and like Damage Plan and Superjoint and all that stuff. Too.
Yeah,
we were like, you know what I mean?
No, and that's how my listening's always been. Is I've always been the kind of person who like, I can hang with Pantera, but I can also appreciate, whatever
Beach
else.
Boys or whatever. Or Tupac or Depeche Mode or whatever you're in the mood for.
Dude,
Marvelous 3.
Marvelous.
Butch Walker's
Butch
the man.
Walker. Yeah, and there's a lot of that influence on your record. Is,
nice.
Obviously you can hear the Britpop stuff and the Oasis, and especially in your vocals, very Oasis-y vocals. But the songwriting is like really reminds me of Butch Walker and kind of the better power pop stuff out there.
I appreciate it, man. I've always loved that kind of like songwriting for me. I always loved just that real short and sweet kind of just that classical stuff like the Beatles, especially like early Beatles stuff.
Yeah.
I love those songs. I just still think they're such great songs. Like the She Loves You and I Want to Hold Your Hand. And they're just like killer rockin' little pop songs, I love those.
I mean, you don't need more than 3. If you can't get your point across in 3.5 minutes, what are you doing?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Planning, yes.
Yeah. No, like get out of here with all these prog rock songs. So you never wrote a 20-minute opus? Is what I'm hearing. No.
Oh no, and of course
the next
Cheap Trick.
record.
Of course, Cheap Trick.
No, yeah,
my Cheap Trick
same.
shirt.
You were the one that really got me like to really listen to Cheap Trick because obviously you grow up, you hear Surrender and the Cheap Trick hits and stuff, but you were like, no, man, you got to listen to the deep cuts. Like you got to really get in there and listen to those records. And my parents had them on vinyl. My dad had the vinyl, so
nice.
When we were working on that record at the time is when I started pulling out those Cheap Trick records and listening to them. And now, those are some of my favorite records.
Yeah, man. They're awesome.
Yes, sir.
Another mutual friend of ours, Jack Douglas, he produced their first record. That's like my favorite one. It's their self-titled record.
Yeah.
Has no hits on it, but
that's
awesome.
That's a name to very casual. That's a really good name to very casually drop here, Jack Douglas.
Oh, yeah, man. He's my friend Tom, I mentioned, he used to work with this record company, Big 3 in St. Pete, back in the early 2000s, and he, he's been my dad's best friend since 1966, and they used to be partners in the comedy club, and he got me in to work for Jack Douglas when Jack was producing this band at Big 3 in the fall of 2001, and so that's how I got to know Jack, just through being like the runner and stuff, so which meant
being the cabin boy.
Yeah, pretty much. Most of the time, I just sit there on the couch.
That would be the Visca Pisces record.
Oh yes, Visca Pisces,
which I was also involved with.
That's right. I know. I was so excited because I had no idea. I remember I showed up like it was about a couple weeks into it, and I showed up one day and you were there, and I was like, yes, George is here. Somebody I know. Awesome.
That was pretty weird.
Well, because I could hang with you, man. It was
right.
Like, it was more fun when you got there.
Yeah.
Well, of course.
Yeah. Because I didn't know. I was too nervous to talk to Jack yet, so it was before I was friends with him.
Right.
And the other people,
and you didn't bring any hot sauce, so you weren't going to get in.
Yeah,
that
exactly.
Way, so.
What is it with engineers and hot sauce, man?
Dude,
that's the thing.
Everybody loves hot sauce.
Well, yeah.
Ask Joe Perry about hot sauce.
I know, right? I'd love to ask Joe Perry about hot sauce.
He has his own hot sauce. It's wonderful.
Does he really?
Joe Perry rocks your world.
That's right.
That's a great name.
They used to sell it at the Hard Rock Cafe. It was like mango habanero, rock your world, Joe Perry hot sauce.
Good stuff.
That's
pretty
delicious.
rad. Yeah, man. That's another thing, man. Being lucky, just getting to being a huge John Lennon fan, my whole life, and end up getting to work for Jack Douglas. Produced John's last record, man. It's like, how is this happening to me? This is awesome.
Yeah,
just stumbling into like lucky stuff,
Yeah, I bet he's got some stories, man.
Oh yeah.
Oh, he's got books worth of stories.
Yeah.
Oh my God,
that would cover a whole. You should have his own.
I can't wait for Jack's book to come out.
Yeah, is he He's working on one.
Yeah, he says he is. I'm sure he is.
Yeah, he's got to be.
But his career and just his life in general is so charmed, so unbelievably like charmed.
Yeah,
every step of the way, just amazing things have happened to that man. And it's just super interesting.
Wow.
I love hearing him tell stories.
Yeah.
And you can ask anybody that's worked with him. Everybody says that. Everybody's like, "Oh, Jack, tell you a story about that."
Oh, for sure.
Say about the monkey and.
Of course, I bothered him for all the tell me stories about John Lennon. Man, he told me some hilarious shit that I've never heard before.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It was great, man. It was very very cool.
That's awesome. So this is what you were doing instead of releasing your record.
Yep.
Is what I'm hearing.
Oh yeah.
You just put the record on the shelf and you just started doing cooler stuff.
Working. And then I played drums, with other people, just like out and about for doing that kind of stuff, making money, having fun, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and it's cool, man.
And also too, a big time I was going to school, finishing all that up.
What did you study?
History.
Oh, but not rock history. That's not a major. They don't.
I wish it was, man. My dad always says, he's like, man, if there was like a degree he could get in rock history, he's like, my son would be like a freaking PhD, man.
Yeah,
this is true.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's like when I went to USF, I took an American Studies class,
nice,
which is kind of rock history.
Well, that was my minor, actually, American
Studies. Oh, right on. Yeah, I actually got to interview Rick Derringer.
Nice.
For one of my papers. Do you remember that?
I recall that. Yes.
I came into Pando with a little tape recorder and added this interview with Rick Derringer, and my professor was so impressed. He was like, "Wow!" Like, because it had to be on something from like the '60s and '70s.
right.
Like, and you're supposed to interview somebody. And everybody goes and interviews their grandpa or whatever, or their uncle or whoever. And I was like, I interviewed rock legend Rick Derringer. The professor was like, what?
Nice.
That's A+. Boom.
Nice.
Yeah. I also wrote a paper about wrestling, so that class.
Nice.
I love that class, but that's cool, man. So history, American studies, and you probably never use that ever again.
Not at all.
Nope.
Nothing. No. I'll tell you what, man. These days, it's just the only thing my history degree is good for these days is just like hearing people say stuff like on television with what's currently going on and being like, no, that didn't happen. And like that, no.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's about it.
He's the one guy that knows that stuff.
Yeah, right.
There's nobody else does anymore. Nor seems to care.
No.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah.
That's the other thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's amazing how, like, you've been a part of this community for such a long time. Like, basically, like you said, your whole life you've kind of grown up around here and, with the comedy club and everything. Like,
yeah, man.
And it made me realize, like, how many people, like, love and care about you. Like, when I heard you got sick, like, everybody was like, I was all over my Facebook feed, and all these people were coming like, we need to help Adam and we need to, like, do what we can,
That's amazing, man. I never think people like, I never think that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't think people remember me, and people are like, you know what I mean? Like,
no,
I just don't think I'm like, I'm like just beyond stunned when I hear about that stuff, like on Facebook and all that stuff, when I got sick and stuff. And it's just so humbling, and just, I don't know how else to describe it, really. It's just it leaves me speechless, really.
Yeah, I remember calling George immediately and being like, what's going on with Adam? Because I hadn't seen you in so long, and, So what do you want to go into that? Do you want to talk, like, what happened to you?
Well, let's see. It all started it was August 2015. My girlfriend, who lives over in just outside of Florence, Italy, she was over visiting, and me and some other friends, we went swimming in the ocean up in Jack's Beach. And I don't go swimming in the ocean.
Okay.
I mean, I was born and raised in Florida, but I love cold weather and nighttime. I hate the sun. I don't like the beach. It has too much sand and shit. You know what I mean? So
not only were you born in the wrong era, you were born in the wrong place.
I know.
My friend.
I like New York City and Stockholm in the winter and autumn. That's like what I like. That's my vibe. Yeah. But anyway, so I went swimming in the ocean, and I don't do that. And a couple days after, I came down here to visit, and I just got really sick down here. I was staying in a hotel room on Treasure Island here. It was about 3 days after we got down here, so about 4 days after I swam in the ocean up there. And I remember it was like out of a Stephen King movie what happened. I was sitting there, my girlfriend was out at the swimming pool. I was sitting in the hotel room in the AC listening to music, and I started like hallucinating and stuff, and a lot of weird shit started happening in this room, like shining stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I would hear music, like my own songs from our CD, but done in like this weird, like,
but
cult
it didn't occur to you like hallucinating, correct?
No, it seemed like it was real. And the weird thing, I still vividly remember it too. And like I started to see like the walls literally started to bleed, like little slits of blood down the wall. I mean, and it felt really real. I mean, it was all at the time. I didn't know what was going on, but it was like at the time. But at the time, I mean, it was like, because I don't believe any of that stuff. I love horror movies, but I don't believe any of that, real life. So I was like freaking out. I'm like, what the fuck is happening? And there was like I was sitting on the bed in this hotel room, and there was a trash bin in the corner, and it just started to shake like real violently. It sounded like there was like an army of like wasps trapped inside this thing. And it was just weird shit, like, And so I freaked out and went down to the pool and told my girlfriend, like, I got to go to my dad's house. I'll see you later. And so I walked down the street to my dad's house, and I was telling him, I ran out, I told him what was going on. I'm like, you're not going to believe you. I was scared. I was really scared. And before I left the hotel room, all of a sudden a note appeared next to my bed, and it said something like, our group, the leader of our group, she wants you to come live with us and have babies for 20 years, and you can't tell anybody about this, and you have to leave your girlfriend. You can't tell your family, or else we'll find them and we'll kill them. I'm serious. That's what this note, well, not really said, but in my
your brain, this is what you saw.
And so that's when I hauled ass to my dad's house, and I told him. He's like, "What are you talking about? You're full of shit." And the next thing I remember, I woke up in ICU at the hospital, Palms of Pasadena, near St. Pete Beach.
Wow.
And what my dad told me is after I told him this, I guess I went in the next room in the house, and about 2 minutes later heard a big thud, and he walked in there. I was on the ground having a seizure, and he rushed me to ICU, and it turned out I had some kind of like weird, like crazy blood infection, like sepsis or something. It was like got all in my brain and my spine and all this kind of stuff.
What?
And I was in ICU for about probably 6-7 days at this hospital, and they couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. They pumped me full of like every kind of antibiotic medicine you can imagine, and I just got better, started to get better, and they released me after about 2 weeks in September.
And they still don't know why.
Yeah, they still aren't sure. They kind of thought they might have known what it was, but they never really nailed it down. But it had gotten into my brain, and that's what made me see on all this shit. And it was probably residual stuff from me loving horror movies. It just activates that whatever part of your brain.
I'm still going with demonic possession.
Okay,
that's
well, yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, so they released me from the hospital in September 2015. And it was good, felt good, and then everything was going good. And then February of 2016, I bought a ticket to go over to Italy for a couple months to see my girlfriend over there. And my mom took me to the airport in Jacksonville. I was getting ready to walk through security, and my mom stopped me. And it's like, "Let me look at you again." And she looked in my eyes, and she's like, "Your eyes are yellow." She's like, "There's no way you're getting on this airplane." I'm like, "What? Really?" He's like, "Yeah, no, I just don't, no way." Put mom foot down there.
Yeah. The moms start to,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And so she called the airport EMTs. They checked me out and said, "You need to get to the hospital." And I went to the hospital on the beach in Jacksonville. They did a quick blood test, and they did a thing called a MELD score of my liver. And it's a number system, 1 being your liver's great, 40 being terrible, so it's a scale 1 to 40. And I was 44 off the charts. So they're like, "Yeah, you need to get in here right now." And basically my liver was just about dead. And so I was in the hospital in ICU in Jacksonville for about a month. And they were trying all kinds of stuff. And, and a lot of this I don't remember because by this point I was pretty far out of it because my liver pretty much shut down. So I don't remember. I was on not life support, but pretty close to that for a while. And my parents wanted to get me on the list, but they actually wouldn't put me on the list because basically I'm a musician, I guess. You remember about that, George? You heard about that?
Wait,
yeah,
really?
I'm very familiar with that.
Yeah.
I've had another friend who died because of that. Their policy is you complete a 12-step program and you're clean for 6 months before we'll transplant you.
Wow.
And they told Adam's parents that. And
Yeah,
they said,
'cause
well, he has 6 weeks to live. And they said, "We're very sorry."
Yeah.
That was it.
I didn't have time to do like a couple months
done deal
program, rehab program.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't even that. They wanted you clean for 6 months.
Or clean
after
for 6
the,
months
after
prior.
the program.
Yeah, then yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. And I was like, dude, I just had my last drink at the airport before I came here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I didn't, and also too, like I was like, man, me, man. I used to like to have a couple drinks a night, but nothing like crazy.
Because I don't remember you as being like a super heavy.
No.
Well, I know I wasn't.
I don't think I ever saw you drunk.
Yeah.
I know. I never
life.
never got blacked out. I never did shots. I just like to have a couple drinks
Yeah, like,
every night,
like most
get
people
a
do.
little buzz on, and leave it at that. You know, but so what happened is, so they thought at the hospital in Jacksonville, that's like what the reason was for why my liver was so messed up. But the doctors, what I ended up doing is they wouldn't put me on the list in Jacksonville, and so my dad freaked out, got in the guy's face who came in the room to tell him, "Yeah, we're gonna have to put your son in hospice instead." My dad was just like, "What the fuck are you talking about? He's 34 years old."
Yeah, because you're a young guy. Like,
Yeah.
you're not. It's not like you're 90 years old. You know, to just give up. Like that.
And the doctors who decided not to put me on the list, they didn't come in and tell my parents that. They sent in like an intern to tell them. And the guy gave my dad a "do not resuscitate" paper, just for him to sign. And my dad just tore it up, threw it in the guy's face. This is all what he told me because I don't remember. But and the guy, I guess, got pretty freaked out by my dad being in his face. So he kind of was like, "Well, okay, wait a minute, let me. I'll be right back." And he came back in the room about 5 minutes later and said, "Well, there's this other hospital in New Orleans called Oxnard. They're a little more aggressive than we are. So we'll refer you to them, and maybe they'll take you." And then, sure enough, later that day, Oxnard called my parents, and they said, okay, we reviewed your son's files that this hospital sent us, and we have a bed open, but it's only open for 24 hours. So you have to get him here within 24 hours, or else we're giving up the bed to somebody else because we have a long line of people waiting for this bed. And my parents don't have a lot of money, but they know a lot of people who do have a lot.
Yeah.
So they got, at the last minute, some guy to give them the money to get an air ambulance. And they got me out of there the very next morning on an air ambulance. Got over there to Oxnard Hospital in New Orleans just in the nick of time. And they have the same protocol there. You have to be 6 months alcohol-free. But the psychiatrist guy, doctor guy who makes the decision on whether or not to put you on the list or not, he came in, talked to my dad, and said, so, I hear you, I don't know how he knew this, but he told my dad when he came in the room, he said, hospital room, he said, so I hear you're in the comedy business. And I was like, yeah, how'd you know that? And the doctor pulled out his phone and said, hey, here's a picture of me, and it was a picture of him and what was that guy's name from The Hangover?
Oh, what, Ed Helms?
Kim.
Kim, whatever.
Yeah. The guy in The Hangover, turns out he was a doctor before he was a comedian. He did his residency at that hospital in New Orleans.
No way.
And so, my dad, and so he started, my dad, when he first heard that, he's like, kind of like, okay, this might turn out pretty good.
Okay, yeah. This is going well.
Yeah, and so we kind of, talked to my dad about the comedy flow. My dad explained, I'm a musician, and explained what happened to me in Jacksonville. They wouldn't put me on the list, and the guy kind of looked at me, and I was all, just almost dead by that point. And the guy kind of looked at me for a bit, turned back to my dad, and said, about 2 years ago, we had a guy come in, real just like your son. He was a musician, but he had the same thing, liver failure. And we have the same protocol, 6 months, but I took a chance on this guy 2 years ago and put him on the list. And about 6 weeks ago, I went to that guy's wedding, and it was the proudest moment in my life.
Yeah.
The doctor said, and after he said, so you know what, Mr. Shoemaker, I'm going to do the same thing for your son and put him on the list. And he did. And they found a match within 24 hours.
Which is
unheard of.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Because when they said they were going to put me on the list, my dad said, he was like, all right, we're going to get ready, kind of settle in here for the long wait, But 24 hours later, they said, we found a match, and it's perfect. Wow. And then 24 hours after that, I was on the operating table. And after the fact, the doctor did my operation. He told my dad, he said, you're real lucky, because if your son would have gotten any little small infection or anything in the hospital, there would have been nothing we could have done for him, and he would have, died. So, I mean, I literally just barely made it. I mean, it's like I shouldn't even be here today, really. I mean, it's.
I'm so glad you're
here. Just like, I mean, it was just like an incredible bit, little stroke of luck, just one after the other, that happened in a short period of time, and just saved my ass.
Wow.
And it was pretty crazy. And the doctor who did the operation, he actually told my dad about when he said when they took out my liver, there was like a collective gasp around all the other 15 or so doctors and nurses who were in the operating room, because the doctor said my liver was twice the size of a normal one and completely black.
Wow.
And the doctor told my dad, if Adam had been an 80-year-old man who'd been drinking half a bottle of Jack for his whole life, his liver wouldn't look this bad. So it was something else.
Something happened.
I think it was something to do with that weird blood infection that almost killed me in August 2015, because when they released me from the hospital in September 2015, my liver was okay, and then 5 months later, it's totally gone. So
wow,
it was all weird stuff happened there, but
So is the moral of the story: don't go swimming? Like, don't go. To
I guess so, man.
The ocean, because now I'm freaked out.
Don't go in the Atlantic Ocean, man.
Yeah, man. But wow, that's just incredible, man. That I'm so glad. I'm so glad it turned out that way,
right?
Because
that's what my dad said, man. It's a great story because it has a good ending.
Yeah.
If it didn't, it wouldn't be a good story.
No, it would not be a good story.
That story could have easily sucked hard.
Oh, it did.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like I said, man. It's just every time I think about it, it's pretty amazing. It was very, very close.
Yeah.
Well,
kudos to your parents for not not giving up and finding a way to make the
that was all my dad getting mad at that guy and getting in his face and tearing up the thing and throwing it in his face.
Yeah, so you got to do it. And then the comedy thing, comedy saves the day.
You just happen to have that in common.
Yeah, and honestly, that it sucks that we live in a country that's so
we're supposedly the greatest country in the world, but
Yeah.
that's like, this is our healthcare system.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's rough.
Mhm. And too, it's just like what happened with me. There's several different, psychiatrists who are on staff there at Oxford. I just happened to get the right one.
Yeah.
If it would have been one of the other ones, they could have said the same thing that the psychiatrist in Jacksonville said.
Just
And then
yeah. And then you wouldn't be sitting here at this table
So it's like,
rocking your cheap trick shirt.
yeah, right. So it's pretty crazy, man. Just luck. I just got really lucky.
Yeah.
Very lucky.
So, I mean, I just don't even, that's crazy. Like, I'm so glad that.
Yeah, you don't get stories like that a lot.
No, we don't talk about that a lot.
The one I don't tell is I have a friend who was put in hospice for that same thing.
Yeah.
That's just it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yep.
We're sorry. That's what they get.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what I got in Jacksonville, man. Same thing,
Yeah, it's
like I
criminal, man. It's criminal.
Yeah. And it's like you still have so much more to offer
Yeah.
this world, like that
Mhm.
34 years old is not the time to go.
Yep. Yeah, man. It was
So,
it was crazy. But hey, 2 years later, man, I'm still here. Like I said, this time 2 years ago, May of 2016, I was in ICU. I got my liver transplant March 27th. So I was about a little over a month, kind of recovering from it. It took me a long time to come back. I had to relearn how to walk again and, all this kind of stuff. So it's just now being able to be back playing drums again for like 4-hour gigs a night is just, I can't even say how amazing it is because I couldn't, just 2 years later. It's like, if you would have told me like right now I'm doing a friend of mine, I just took a little small home studio. I'm just doing a bunch of demos and stuff for the next record I do with George and getting stuff together for the next record. And just, I was thinking doing that, man, if you would have told me I'd be doing that 2 years ago when I was in ICU at New Orleans, I would have been like, no way, man. Because it was like a big deal for me to walk like 3 steps with a walker before having to sit down,
yeah.
And now I'm back to like
Now you're playing
normal stuff and doing all that,
I told you that was going to happen.
I know, but I didn't believe you though. I know George sent me like all these awesome messages on Facebook, because that was like right after you kind of got over all that.
That was when I was coming out of the hospital too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was right after you kind of had went through your phase like that and come out of it, right?
Mhm. Exactly.
You were telling me like, dude, don't worry, it's cool. And I didn't believe. I was like, no, man, this sucks. I'm gonna be like this forever.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, man. So this is just like amazing being like back here doing this and like
Making
doing
music,
new music
again.
and playing again. And I mean, I do like, my kidneys went out in my liver too, so I'm doing dialysis 3 times a week. But with the exception of that, everything else is back to normal. It's just amazing.
Yeah.
No,
I mean, you look like you did 10 years ago, man.
Yeah.
Like, it's like nothing's changed,
Yeah, that's the
Yeah,
part that
man.
kind of pisses me off.
No, George, you look the same too, right?
Oh,
Yeah,
sure.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
Well, that's great, man. That's so then I guess we're kind of already talking about it, but what's next for you then? Work new music, new record.
Yep.
Gonna get back out there playing in the scene or
Yeah, man. I like I said, I play in Jacksonville a lot. Just for right now, I play just playing drums and like for my friend Amy. She's a great singer songwriter up there. I play with her just out and about at like bar gigs and that kind of stuff. But main thing I would love to do is to get back to doing like an original kind of thing.
Well,
Do,
you're a great songwriter, so you
thank
gotta keep writing, man. You don't.
That's my favorite. I do, man. I got a whole bunch of probably about 35, 40 new songs ready to
Right on.
record, or at least we fine tune them. That's what we do, man. I always bring it with George, and George always adds the missing awesome musicalness.
That's kind of
true,
that's
man.
George's gift, man.
It's true, man. Telling
He
you,
adds the missing piece, right?
it's like half the songs on the record, man, are all like a million times better because you added like stuff that I wouldn't have thought
Wouldn't
of.
go quite that far, Adam.
Because I had like the verses and the choruses and stuff, and I thought, that's cool, But then you're like, well, put this here and here, and then it just made the whole thing awesome.
makes it sparkle.
I'm just telling you.
I don't know.
So I have a whole bunch of new songs awaiting that treatment. Is
Yeah,
what
he's
I'm
got some good stuff. I've heard some of them.
Sweet.
The new songs are better.
I can't wait to hear
It's
it.
going to be better than this. So
I got a whole bunch of new ones.
This is going to be
man.
fun to do.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, so we'll end things here with playing. We'll play everybody out with one of the songs from the record. So,
Okay.
What song do you want us to use?
Well, I would say "You Let Me Down" That one.
And that was the one that that this guy was sure was going to be a hit.
Yeah, and I have a video for that song too, actually.
Oh, that's cool.
On YouTube. It's came out good. This guy, David Allison, he directs videos for a couple other musicians around here. Usually a lot of the guys that play at a place called the Hideaway Cafe.
Yeah, I love the Hideaway.
Yeah, and he does a lot of just great videos for these guys. Really simple, but very classy, very cool. It's kind of black and white video, this video. I shot some of it at the Hideaway, some of it at Ale and the Witch, downtown St. Pete, and it's on YouTube. So
awesome. And so what's the story behind this song then?
Well, it's pretty much just I usually don't really, I don't know, it's hard for me to kind of tell like stories about my songs because I don't want to like ruin it for anybody else.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like,
understandable.
Because I remember like sometimes like, you know, like there's been, I wish I could think of a song offhand, but there's been several times or bands I love, like their songs, they mean like something really, like they hit me like, oh man, this is exactly how I felt about this, man. Got it. And the guy says, yeah, that was about my dog. I'm like, really?
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean?
yeah. Let people
I don't want to know that.
Yeah.
But it's pretty much, you know, somebody, you let me down. So, you know,
it's a universal experience.
That is, yes. Most people have been let down at some point in their lives, I would hope.
It would be about someone that let me down for sure.
Yeah. Definite let down. Yeah.
Go figure.
Yeah.
Song title.
All right. Well, then we'll play that out. You know, You Let Me Down by Adam Shoemaker, who, again, we're ecstatic is here with us and hopefully continues to be here with us for a very long time.
Man, thank you so much for having me. This was awesome. In Cigar City Management, Cigar City Radio. It's awesome. Love it.
Love you too, Adam.
Oh, yeah, man.
Let's hug it out.
All right, cool, man.
Waiting for you, but only if you knew that I would never be alive, only cry on lonely nights. I want to, I can't die. A word of ours that never ends till we die, our only friends. I want to, I can't die. Always you let me down, you let me down over and over. Yeah, you let me down, you let me down now. Over and over again. I follow you too. Anywhere we go through, but all the times those words were said, faded thoughts back in my head. I want to, I can't try.
That story could have easily sucked hard. Yeah.